Okay. So whatever we discussed from the last interview, you prepared well, right? From my feedback. Hello. Are you able to hear my voice? Hello.
Can you hear me? I can
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay, fine. So, this is the second round, right? For you, this is the second round.
Yes, second one.
Second mock interview. Fine. So,
Mhm.
okay. So we will start. We will start directly. We can start from core Java. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. So, what is an exception? What is an exception?
Okay. An exception is the way that follows the code when it's running and doesn't run in the expected behavior and can be treated as a special characteristics and can be catched using the try catch block and do some stuff with this out of the normal way run code.
Okay. So how do you develop a custom exception?
Okay. In this case, you can extend the exception class, for example, and add override the custom implementation from the parent exception and add the custom behavior.
Okay. So what are the fields you are going to define inside your custom exception class?
Well, the fields I have to define. I don't remember very well.
Okay, fine. So what is the difference between throw and throws?
Throw is using in runtime. For example, if you're running some code and there is a specific actions you must be do or the code must be do, so you throw an exception that it's open up the levels to get catch in another block. And in case of throws, it's a keyword from Java where you specify in a method what kind or what type of exception is expected to be or can be executed in the runtime.
Okay. So fine. So what is exception propagation?
Okay, for example, I have a class A that throws an exception, for example, in-out exception, and once the exception is thrown, the parent class that called that method will receive that exception, and you can treat it with a try catch block or can be thrown again to an upper class.
Good. Why string is immutable?
Sorry, it got a little. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, why string is immutable? Why string is immutable?
Why string is immutable?
Yes.
Okay, because once you instantiate a new string, it cannot be changed in memory. Only once you create a string, it will not be changed. And for example, if you use this string and append or add more string to this one, once you do this, a new string is instantiated. So it's important to know this because for the memory and performance.
Okay. So what other than memory performance? Where you are using the strings mainly in Java? Okay, memory consumption. Okay, that is accepted. So other than why it is immutable, do you know any other features or any other advantages?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, I'm able to hear.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Can you repeat the last one? The volume got low.
Okay.
Don't hear you
So
very well.
any other features why string is immutable other than memory management?
Mhm.
Other than memory management, any other advantages or any uh, features why string is immutable other than memory consumption?
Okay. Advantage. One of them is the memory performance. Also the yes, to access directly to the string instead of access to another instance, and don't occupy or don't get full of the garbage collector to get the other strings that are not in use to be deleted. And yes, that's all I remember.
Okay, fine. So what is polymorphism? What is polymorphism?
Polymorphism. Okay, it's the ability or the functionality of a class to change based on the functionality. For example, you have a superclass called animal and another superclass called omnivore, for example, and you create a third class when you implement animal and extends herbivore, for example, and you have in this subclass you have all the functionality and the properties from the animals class and from the and
Okay,
extended
got it. Got it. So what is method overloading and method overriding?
Can you repeat?
What is method overloading and method overriding?
What is metal? I don't understand very well.
Method overloading. Method overloading. What is method overloading? Method overloading. So let me type the in the chart. Okay.
Mhm.
What is method overloading? You can see.
Okay. Method overloading. Okay. For example, when it's the functionality to implement one defined method without implementation and implement it in another class. For example, in an interface, you declare a method, and once you implemented it in another
No,
one.
I'm asking method overloading, not overriding. Overloading.
Overloading. Okay. When you define a method in an asset class, for example, a complete method, and implement it or you extend the functionality of that class, you can override this class. For example, toString, it's an overloading commonly used in some classes.
What is the significance of what is the signature of method of overloading?
Okay, it's like how can I explain it? Yeah, it's like rewrite the method rewrite the method functionality. For example, you have a string that prints only one string in the overloading. You can call this method and add another functionality, plus that the one is in the superclass.
Okay. So what is the difference between list and set? What is the difference between list and set?
Difference between what?
List and set. list and set.
List and set.
Yeah.
Okay. Set is a collection of unique objects and is unsorted. And list also is a collection, but this maintains the order of the elements and can allow duplicates.
Okay, fine. So what is the difference between array list and hash set?
Array list
And hash set.
and hash set. Okay. Hash set is one of the implementations of set, and array list is one of the implementations of list. And in those one, therefore, the functionality remains the same because they are extending one from set and one from list and gets the properties from the set. It's still unordered, and you can assign a hash, for example, in the set, and the array list you can add elements, and the order is remaining.
Okay, fine. So what is the difference between hash map and hash table?
Hash map and hash table.
Yeah.
Okay. Hash table is legacy and also is synchronized, and hash table and hash map is not synchronized. Well, of the collections are not synchronized, but I think it's legacy synchronized, the hash table.
What is the difference between hash map and concurrent hash map?
That's not have the answer right now.
Hash map and concurrent hash map. Do you know concurrent hash map?
Yes, but not remember very well what's all the difference.
Okay, fine. So what is the internal implementation of hash map?
Implementation of Hashmap.
How does it work? How does it work internally? Hashmap.
Okay, in Hashmap, you can add elements with a key per value. Also, the Hashmap permits all the keys are unique, and all the values can be repeated. But for example, the null values will be repeated in the value, but in the key only allows one null. That's what I remember from the Hashmap.
Sorry, come again, say again. Come again. How does it work? How does it work, Hashmap? Come again.
Okay, Hashmap. It's implementation of map and also allows key per values. The key is unique and only allow one null value for the key, and allow multiple null values in the value in the pair, and yes, can only be accessible by using an iterable object. And no, you can get the element by the key that has those access methods, for example, get by key and set, and when you can add new objects and get objects.
Okay, fine. So what is the difference between controller and Spring Boot REST controller? The differences between controller and REST controller.
Okay, controller is used basically in Spring without further configuration. And in case of REST controller, it is prepared to do REST calls and expose methods that will respond with a JSON for default, instead of the controller, where you must configure how the response will be done, what type of response, what the object, and the configurations.
Okay.
It's in the case of REST controller, you don't need the boilerplate code. It's already configured.
Okay. Okay. What is the difference between @component and @service?
The component of service, okay, both are used to define classes as a beans that can be loaded by the Spring application, but in the case of service is available directly into the console, and in the case of component, can be used for utilities, for utilities for
Alien.
non kind of objects where the service is only used
Adado.
for business.
Adado.
For
Listen. Let me listen. Your internet connection is not good. Can you say? Can you? Sometimes your voice is breaking. Your image is. Your voice is breaking. Are you able to hear my voice? Are you able to hear my voice?
yes, can hear you.
Okay. So what is the difference between component and
Yes.
service? Are you able to
Okay.
hear? Okay.
Yes, both. Yes. Can I hear you? And in the case of service and components, both annotations can be added to a class to let know a Spring that must be loaded, treated as a beans. But in case of service, it's more defined or can be used more for business logic. And the case of component can be used for another type of objects and configurations. That's what I remember for annotation.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me right now? Maybe if I stop the video.
Yeah, you can stop video, no issue. You can stop video.
Okay, I stop it.
Okay. You are able to hear my voice now?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay,
Right now.
fine. So what is the difference between component and service? Can you repeat again?
Okay. The service annotation is most used for business logic beans or classes. And in the case of a component, can be used for another objects, utilities, and configurations.
Okay. So, okay, fine. So if I use component on top of service instead of service, what will be happen?
If I use both of them or both annotations.
No, clearly understand the question. If I use component on top of service class instead of service, so what will be happen? If I use directly component on top of service, what will be happen?
Okay. Here's one. The component that is used in the service will be loaded first. Sorry, first one, the service will be loaded, the bean definition will instantiate, and then the object inside the service or the component will be instantiated in second place.
Sorry, tell me again.
Yes. For example, if you use the service in a controller, once the controller instantiate the service, then the component will be instantiated because of the annotation that is in the service that calls the component. So first one instantiate the service and then instantiate the component.
Okay, nothing will happen. You are going to your answer is nothing will happen if the flow is working as it is, right?
Okay.
Okay. See, Ellen. See, if you are using component on top of service, nothing will be happens. Okay. So component is nothing but it is making the class to auto-write anywhere. Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, so service class is also we are auto-write inside the controller to get the service functionalities to the controller, right? The same way, if you are assigning, if you are mentioned that component on top of service, nothing will be happens. It will work as it is. But to make our intensity is clear, our intention is clear. This is the service layer, so that where we can write a business logic for understanding level for better readability, we need to use service instead of a component, so that so nothing will be happen if you are using component. Okay. So, but better to recommended the recommended way of using service only on top of service. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, fine. So, okay. So, what is dependency injection?
Okay, it's used by Spring, and
Yeah.
it's related to yes, add the required components or beans or classes, the objects instantiated into a class instead of instantiate once or two or more times into the new object. So, for example, in a service, if you add the auto-wired annotation and reference an object, a class, when the program runs, this class will be instantiated into an object and can be accessed by the class or the instantiated object that has the annotation. This way, the objects,
Fine.
the classes can be instantiated and
Okay, fine, got it. So, what is the okay? So, what is solid principles?
what can you repeat?
What is solid design principles?
Solid principles. Okay. I don't remember very well right now.
Okay. From my side is done, Ellen. So you need to focus on all the annotations from the Spring Boot. Okay. So what is the difference between the component and service? What is the difference between component and service and repository? And what is the difference between controller and rest controller? Right? So you need to go through all the application, all the annotations inside the Spring Boot Spring framework. And what is the qualifier? And what is the primary, primary? What is the qualifier? Where we are using when it is when that annotations are required to use. So you need to go through all the annotations. Okay.
Okay, sure.
And also, please be prepared. See, so we are taking it a second round interview, right? So from the first round interview, from the second round, you are not updating the skills. You are how you are having a first round knowledge, the same knowledge now you have. You didn't update it properly, the things, whatever I'm giving the feedback from the previous interview. Please update the things. And also, See, exception handling in the sense whenever you are creating a custom exception, you need to prepare, you need to mention some variables inside the custom exception. Like if you are creating an exception, you need to pass some error message. You need to pass some status so that error message is related to string, some message, string error message. Status in the status in the sense you need to mention HTTP status inside the custom exception class as a variable, so that you whenever you are creating a custom exception, what is the purpose of custom exception? Why how we can export this exception with the proper messages? You need to think about that. Okay.
Okay.
And also,
Okay.
please look into the collection internal implementations of Arraylist and Hashmap and Hashmap. How those are working internally, how those are internally storing the elements unique way as part of map and set. You need to look into that. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Take it note of that.
And also solid principles. Solid principle in the sense SOLID. S means single responsibility and single responsibility principle. O means open and closed principle. LID. SOLID. L means Disco substitution principle. I means integration interface segregation principle. And D means dependency injection principle. So that you need to know all these 5 principles. We are using day-to-day code. We are unknowingly used these principles. But as a developer, you should know what is the solid principles. Okay, where you are using exactly.
Okay. Yes. Sure.
And also, please prepare for the design pattern. Also, design patterns. We have a design patterns like structural design patterns and behavioral design patterns and structural and behavioral and creational design patterns. Okay, so from these design patterns, creational, we have a builder and a singleton and a prototype and some design patterns. How 5 or 6 design patterns we have, right? So you need to prepare. You need to understand that. You need to understand the design pattern, purpose of design pattern. Why the design patterns came into the picture? Okay, what is the exact use of these design patterns? What is the singleton design pattern? Where we are using them? What is the real-time examples for that singleton design pattern? And what is the open and closed solid principle? Where we are using exactly? For example, take the open and closed design principle. So we are using our day-to-day code. Open and closed means it should be open for extension and it is closed for the modification, which means the Java interface is the best example for the open and closed principle. So whenever you deploy, whenever you are developing an application, your interface is adding all the functionalities what you are going to do. But whenever you are providing an implementation, you cannot change the already defined methods in an interface. It is open for the extension. So simply you are overriding the implemented classes, not changing the method names and method signatures, right? So that is nothing but it is open for the extension. It is open for the extension, closing for the modification. We cannot change the behavior or signature of that method, but we can provide the implementation for that method. So that is nothing but open for the extension and closing for the modification, right? So like that, you need to prepare all the design principles with the real-time examples. Whatever you are developing from your day-to-day code, please pick up that those are the examples of these solid principles. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
And also design pattern, singleton design pattern is there, prototype design pattern is there, builder pattern is there, proxy design pattern is there. So different design patterns from different categories like creational, structural, and behavioral. So what are the design patterns where you are exactly using? So you need to prepare all these things for the next interview. Okay.
Okay. Can you repeat the last one?
Solid principles and design patterns and springboard annotations.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I will share the interview topics to the our WhatsApp chat. So please prepare for the next interview. So don't come without preparing. See, waste of your time and my time. So please prepare. I want to make you crack any kind of interview by preparing these topics. Okay. So please be prepared.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Alien. So we will meet next.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, see you. Thank you.